CEO Live Talks.
I am Dr. Swanee Jett, and I have a passion for public health for over 30 years. Now, I'm in a position to affect change, and these are the critical conversations about health in our community with the people who can help me make those changes. Good afternoon. Welcome to CEO Live Talks. I'm your host, Dr. Swanee Jett, and welcome to episode 2 with Ms. Knapek. I had a epiphany. I guess I was watching a Will Smith movie.
Okay.
And it was the one where he had decided, I guess, he was going to die and he was going to give certain body parts to people. And the family that received the organs was like, hey, I'm appreciative. I can see that individual now living in somebody else. So I'm just appreciative to have that person receive that, or that person received the eyes. And it was like, wow, I really hadn't thought about it like that.
Yes.
But it gave them such hope instead of grief.
Right.
So that was the interesting part. So I can see that.
Yeah.
But I'm sure you experienced some tragic stories where the organs didn't work.
Yeah. And I think people who work in healthcare are special humans because you are surrounded by that all the time, all of the things that don't work. And there were definitely plenty of tears and mourning and places where it didn't work. I mean, even families who said no. That
hurts.
That hurts,
That
right?
hurts. That hurts.
Transplants that didn't work, all of those things. But even though you have a bad day, a bad experience, the overall, work was meaningful, joyful, and you focus on those things.
Yeah. So, and I can relate. I've had friends even recently that have waited for a kidney transplant.
Yeah.
So it happens.
It happens.
One of my heroes was Walter Payton.
Yeah.
So I have a good memory of that. So when did you know it was time to do something else?
I loved that job. I probably would have been in that job forever. I actually was doing YPAL things as kind of my, side volunteer gig.
Right.
Quasi job that was
No pay.
no pay, right?
No pay.
And because I was doing that, I got to know some amazing people who were working in civic leadership space. One of whom was Mary Lou Northern. And Mayor Abramson had just come into his 2.0 version of Mayor for Life. Right. He was pulling together his team, and Mary Lou Northern was his cabinet secretary, and so she was out talent scouting. And because I had been doing the work with YPAL, she called me and said, the mayor is pulling together his team, and I would really like to talk to you about being part of this work that we're doing. And I turned her down once because I really loved what I was doing, right? And we had several conversations back and forth, and eventually, and I kept saying no, but she really wanted me to do this work, and she really thought that for me, she saw opportunity there that she really felt like for me this was the right job.
Okay.
And also for our community, she felt like I would be.
You had the right passion.
Right. And so she pulled out the big guns on a call, and she said, the mayor is asking you to serve in that way, right? And I went, yes, ma'am, I'm in. Right? Yeah.
I was going to say, what convinced you? But that would do it.
Yeah, right? That's it. It's let me rephrase this.
Right.
The mayor is asking you to serve. So I said yes.
Sounds like black men.
Let me give you a different lens to look at this through. And the thing about it is, it's still this. I went to work for that administration as the executive director of Brightside.
Okay.
Brightside is our clean and green agency,
Yep,
right?
yep. Still is.
Yes, right.
is.
And Brightside is all about, is clean and green is definitely what we do, but see, it's we. It's still, I have these
Right.
jobs that
Right.
I haven't
You
done
won't
this
let
in
go.
forever, but still say we. It is all about how we raise our hand to volunteer, because Brightside is all in for
It's
volunteerism.
all volunteers.
Yeah, and the city is what it is because the citizens are who they are.
Right.
And I just fell in love with Brightside as a means to, it's an easy button way for you to get involved, right? 2 hours on a Saturday, I'm gonna hand you a bag and a pair of gloves. You're gonna walk down this beautiful park, this alley, and at the end of your walk, it's gonna be transformed.
Yes.
And people go, oh, that was easy and I feel good. So that entryway to civic engagement, I fell in love with.
Yeah.
I loved the complexity of government. I think everyone should have to work for government.
I don't like the complexity of government.
I don't either. Notice I'm not still there.
Right, the bureaucracy of
Yeah.
it.
But I think everyone should have to serve. So one of the, I love the Leadership Louisville experience. I think one of the things it does is it gives people a deeper lens on, widens the aperture, a wider lens for what it is to serve and to lead in community. It is incredibly hard to be a leader within a government organization. Sure, every once in a while there's a human that's maybe not up to par, but that exists everywhere. It's
Right.
probably just an alignment. They need to shift somewhere else.
Right.
By and large, most of the people who work for government are there out of a deep sense of how do we
Right.
move forward together.
Right.
They're there
Right.
investing their
That's
time,
right.
energy, and effort.
That's right.
I think if it was a requirement for everyone to serve in some capacity, if you don't want government, okay, then go work in the school system or go work.
Right.
But everyone should have to do that.
And they will have a better lens on how we work.
Yes.
Because I think people that are in the private sector, they really don't understand how government works.
No.
And even why it came into existence,
Yeah.
which is the crux of it. Okay.
Yeah.
So why did you leave?
When I was there, I had the opportunity to go through one of the Leadership Louisville programs. Okay. And while Brightside is good about volunteerism in this particular scale, Leadership Louisville has the opportunity to impact that idea of city is what it is because the citizens are who they are, because of who shows up and serves.
Right.
And after I went through the program, I was so enthusiastic about this as an aha moment in understanding how we work together as community. So I stayed involved as a volunteer. And when Chris Johnson, who had the job for 20 years, when she was thinking about her succession plan, she called me and said, I think this is your next role. And unlike the last round, she did not have to convince me. I knew.
You knew it.
Yeah, that there's magic at the Leadership Louisville Center. And it is magic in the form of aha moments. And there is... we're able to provide aha moments to completely 180 degrees. Like, I love it when people say, I was wrong about that.
Right.
So to be able to provide people with that insight, but also to be able to connect them with other humans that they never would have met.
And it's a lot of aha moments when they come into the room. They be like, oh,
Right.
you're going to put that out in the air. Now I got
That's
to
right.
address it. Like,
Yeah.
yep, you need to address it.
Yeah, so that was an easy sell. And I loved, and so being able to lead the Leadership Louisville Center is a fabulous treat, because when I see an opportunity in our community, I'm like, oh, I think we need to rise to the occasion and add more programming. Kind of like what I was talking about. I think investing in people's skill sets and their ability, how they show up and are able to get things done with and through others. We've been able to add a whole lot of these smaller workshops that are, micro learnings and opportunities to just skill up And when I see an opportunity, we looked at it and we said, hey, look at all the baby boomers that are transitioning out of their full-time roles. One, we need to keep them engaged in community, and two, we need the value of their wisdom.
Correct.
Right? So we said, well, let's create something that leverages that strength. And so we created Encore Louisville. And I'm able to look at that and say, what do we need as community, and try and be part of positive activation.
What you show up in is not what matters, it's how you show up.
Right.
So if you can articulate from your heart, they'll forget what you got on.
Because a lot of people want to Google medicine now.
Yes.
And it's very difficult.
It is. Would you Google if you had some sort of ailment that you were curious about?
I'm an epidemiologist by training.
Okay,
so.
fair, so you know.
Folks, what are your credentials? And sometimes you have to pull them out and say, okay, here's this degree, here's that. You're like, oh, okay, maybe we should listen to you.
We're going to build a $40 million facility that allows parents to sleep better at night.
You know, I was watching this thing on PTSD, and they were talking about people in war, and they were like, you know, human beings are not wired to perennially be on alert, you know, in a state of alert.
Right,
and that's what happens when you were at war.
Yeah, your cortisol level continues to go up, the adrenaline gland.
And that's what's happening to Black people.
So you've been there 20 plus years now. What would you say is your biggest accomplishment?
Not quite 20 years. Well, actually closer to 15.
Well, yeah, closer to 15.
Well, now, actually, if you count my start date as when I graduated from my first Leadership Louisville program, then yes, it's been more than 20 years.
Yeah, you've been involved for a long time.
Yeah. So for the Leadership Louisville Center, one of the things that I'm super proud of is the center used to be in small office space. And what we would basically say is the Leadership Louisville Center was a center in philosophy. A few years ago, we were able to actually create a leadership center.
Okay.
And we opened our offices on Main Street. And part of the vision for that was for our community to have an epicenter, an actual physical place where people come together, where all the people who are interested in serving our community come together and have a
gathering place.
Have a gathering place.
And I would say that's huge because, you know, one of the things I noticed, you went to Leadership Louisville, you were on the outside. Right?
Yes.
Then you started volunteering. And now you become the president and CEO.
Yeah.
So you had a lot more insight than people normally would, you know, get into a job. So from the onset, what did you think you needed to do? Because you had a vision, right?
One of the things I will tell you is that Chris Johnson, who had the job before me, was a fabulous leader to follow, in that what I inherited is the Leadership Louisville Center is, at that point, was one of the largest civic leadership programs in the country. So Chris had already created something that was nationally significant. People from other communities would come here and say, oh, we want to follow the Leadership Louisville footprint. And when you inherit something that is not inherently broken, you don't have to fix it. All you have to do is grow it. And I do think that is the job. The job is not to just hold that asset, but your job is to figure out how to multiply that.
And I'm thinking, because I did notice Seminole County came.
Yeah.
Because I went through their leadership program. Well, I went through because I was on the board.
Okay.
And then I had to go through the program. Did y'all give them advice? Because they show up in Louisville. I'm like, Seminole County, Florida, why they in Louisville?
Yeah, no, so we do all the time. In fact, last week we had Huntsville and Jacksonville, Cincinnati joining us to look at, share best practices. So we love investing in other civic leadership programs. And in fact, one of the, I can't, you asked me kind of what are some of my biggest accomplishments. I can't call it an accomplishment yet, but what we're working on is actually leaning into that strength, of being one of the, we're the largest community leadership program in the country.
Okay.
We have the most programs, the most alumni.
That's huge because
It is.
I remember some of the people that went through in the 90s,
Yeah.
right? I had totally forget about leadership a little bit. I was like,
Yeah.
they still doing great things.
We are, but I need to work on this being not so much of a well-kept secret.
Right.
Right. I want to make sure everyone has access to the Leadership Louisville Center, and that's one of the things that we're working on right now. Is we're raising scholarship dollars to make sure that anyone can come through. We're looking at our programming and make sure that it's accessible, but we're also leaning into a national leadership role,
Okay.
and have been working on building out the National Community Leadership Collaborative, which will be based here in Louisville, but it will be an epicenter of what does good community leadership look like, and we will have the opportunity to kind of establish ourselves as a national best practice.
So, what's your philosophy about leadership? Because we talked a lot about leadership, but yeah, what's your philosophy?
Yeah.
And with that, I'm gonna ask a two-part question,
Oh, okay.
right? Because a lot of people want to become leaders, right? But they don't know how to get there. And if you identify somebody that's a bad leader, how do you get them to be a good leader?
Yeah. That was a lot of questions.
That's a lot of questions.
Yeah. And there was actually, I think it was in Harvard Business Review, a recent study in the last year that said people who nominate themselves for leadership roles, ooh, me, I could do that, end up being not as good as those who are tapped on the shoulder and said, hey, I see something fabulous in you, let's push you forward, which is just kind of the Dunning-Kruger effect of like, I think I'm way better than I maybe actually am sometimes. I'm going to go with a leadership philosophy that is based in humility, but I think C.S. Lewis said humility is not about thinking less of yourself, it's about thinking of yourself less.
Right.
Right.
That makes sense.
So, and I actually that's probably as close to, it's borrowed words from an eloquent writer.
Right.
But I think that's what it's about, right?
Right.
Is a little bit about thinking of yourself less.
Yeah. Almost like you have to be selfless and really care more about people.
Yeah. And what I like, we just had our leadership summit, and one of the things I was teaching is delegation training, right? How do we be better at this? And one of the things that I ask people when they're signing on for this work is you build your brand early on with gold stars. Wow, you are the best public health director in the whole wide world, never seen anyone better than you.
Right.
Wow, you are the best nurse, you are the best Excel spreadsheet maker. Wow, 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 gold star, gold star, gold star. So what I ask people is, are you willing to give up your gold stars in favor of being someone's North Star? And so that's the path of leadership, is are you willing to give up your gold star and to try and be someone's North Star instead? So this is it's the humility to think of yourself less. I only win when you win.
Right. Right.
Hello, my name is Sierra Clark, and I'm the Chronic Disease Manager at Park Duval Community Health Center. Ever since I started at Park Duval over 9 years ago, I have been committed to helping patients live healthier lifestyles. I am currently serving patients in the Chronic Care Management Program, or CCM program. My team and I help patients manage their chronic conditions such as obesity, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and diabetes. In this CCM program, you will receive several benefits to help you manage your health. We offer monthly telephone calls to check in with your progress and to assist you with any concerns, assistance with scheduling your healthcare appointments, and assistance with filling your prescriptions in a timely and convenient manner. We also offer many resources to help you with the barriers you may face with eating healthy, being physically active, or monitoring your conditions at home. For more information, visit us online at pdchc.org or visit one of our health centers.
And so, it's funny when we talk about boardrooms, and I'm sure this comes up. I've sat in a boardroom. Most of the time in boardrooms, I might be the only male, African-American male, or minority, period. And I say something and nobody hears it.
Yes.
I turn to my partner, who they don't know is my friend. I say the same thing to him, and he says it. And they said it's a great idea. And I remember this happened one time. I was at a board meeting on a national level, and when I said it to him, he said out loud, "They said that's a great idea. Thank you for the idea." He was like, "Oh no, that was his idea." So, do any of your people in the program ever have those aha moments, and they like,
Absolutely. In fact, actually, we talk about allyship in all of our programs, and one of the things that we talk about is the ability to amplify someone else's voice.
okay,
We talk about sponsorship as well. So having relationships where you have sponsors who are willing to look for an opportunity to amplify your voice, right?
okay,
Architecting your social network so that you have those people is one of the learnings. Architecting your social network so that you are those people is also one of the learnings, right?
And one of the interesting things that I heard, and you know, Miss Houston made it very personal. She gave everybody in your leadership class her phone number.
She does that, yes.
And it's like, who does that?
She does.
So that means she is opening herself up even more to give back and to develop people.
Yes, she
And I think
absolutely
that's
does.
great.
Yeah, she's very accessible. I just emailed her a couple of weeks ago with a young woman who had emailed me because she'd had the opportunity to literally like just brush shoulders with Alice for a second. And the young woman had emailed me and she was like, I look forward to someday being able to meet Alice. And I sent it to Alice because I just thought she would get a kick out of it.
Right.
And I should have known Alice was like, can you give me her contact information? I would like to reach out to her.
Right, right.
You know, but that's thinking of yourself less and others more.
Right, right.
Yeah, exemplary.
So now, what's your vision for the next 5 years? Because I know you're working on it.
Yeah.
I should say 2 to 3, but I'm always going to say 5.
Now, yeah, we are actually doing another strategic plan right now. I'll talk both practically and philosophically.
Okay.
Practically, I am really interested in AI. I am interested in how do we. I think one of the things that Leadership Louisville Center can and should do is be future leaning.
Correct.
I think AI actually has the opportunity to create economies of scale. And that's one of the things that nonprofits struggle with, right? Is we're trying to do all the world's good on
Shoestring budget.
Yeah. And I think that this technology could be revolutionary in addressing that gap.
Okay.
So I want us to lean into that and look at how are we using that. So practically, we have some things in there that are how do we make sure that the Leadership Louisville Center is a high-powered engine.
Right.
I have that. Philosophically, the thing that we're looking at with the center is there's a little bit around ensuring the social health of our community. And I mean, I should say our communities, plural. Our community being Louisville and the region, but also those small microcosms are still community.
Right.
The team that you work with is still community. So our next strategic plan, I think, will focus a whole lot on the social health of our community and how we gather. We have had a incredible reset post-COVID.
Yes, we have. Yes, we have.
There was already before COVID happened, there was already some predictions from folks that said, membership associations, we don't affiliate in the same way. There was a book called Bowling Alone that a lot of people read that was about, we don't do bowling leagues anymore. We don't
Right.
show up in community in that way. So there was already that, but then we sent everyone home and kind of pretty much sealed the deal on that. We need to reinvent the way that we come together and gather in community. So our plan for this next round of strategic planning will focus on how do we do that? How do we reinvent how we come together as community? I think there's a piece of this puzzle. This does not sound at all very businessy, except I think it's important. I think there's a piece of our strategic plan that will focus on friendships. I think it's a lost art. I think it is part of our social health for our community, but also our health for us as individuals. So we'll look at some of those things. And we have to be able to come together. I'm gonna full circle and go back to just practical stuff.
Right.
We have to be able to come together just to get stuff done.
But that's true.
Right?
And I think, and what I'm noticing being back in Louisville, because I left for several years, is that the more we conversate, the more we find we have in common.
Right?
And then we can work together.
Yes. And I'm interested in teaching the skill set of good conversation. I'm interested in teaching the skill set of better arguments. Right? How do we actually challenge each other in a way that actually, instead of pushing us into our far corners, there is a way that we can challenge each other that brings us together. Wouldn't that be fabulous?
Man, that sounds like Democrat and Republic. Congress, they're supposed to do that.
So, when I worked for Mayor Abramson, he always used to tell everyone there's no Democratic or Republican way to fill a pothole. I don't know if you remember him saying that.
Yep,
but,
I remember him saying that.
And I'm not sure that is still true.
Right.
I think if you asked, there would be a decidedly Democratic way to fill a pothole, a decidedly Republican way to fill a pothole. And if you chose one or the other, there would be a group who said you were decidedly wrong in how you want to fill that.
But you still got to fill it.
But you still have to fill it.
You got to fill it.
You still have to fill it.
And that's what I think is the job, to me, of the president, is to bring the House and the Senate together, and we all work together.
Right?
Right?
Yeah.
For the people.
Yes. We can argue about it. I think we should argue about it. I think that's, one of the great foundations of this country.
Right.
But we should argue about it with the end goal being move forward together.
Move forward together
right?
as a people.
Yeah. One of the things that we teach is just the idea of the point of an argument isn't to win.
Right.
Point of an argument is to elevate understanding.
Right. Come up with a solution.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you for coming on the show today. It's been a pleasure.
It was great to talk to you.
Thank you for watching the show. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Thank you.